Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be doing a book review on this book, Religion for Atheists by Alain de Botton, that I checked out of the library. It's due soon. But anyway, I'm thinking I might actually buy a copy of this. I thought it was pretty good. But anyway, it's basically Religion for Atheists, a non-believer's guide to the uses of religion. And for me, I'm not a non-believer. I would say I'm an exiled believer. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty interesting book. And I think Alain de Botton did a decent job explaining certain ways that religion can be of use. Now, his attitude at the beginning is he basically talks about how the debate between the religious and the atheists has basically been whether these doctrines are true or not. And then there are kind of third parties like me who say, well, not literally true, but in a metaphorical way, or, yeah, getting off on a tangent or whatever. But anyway, he basically comments on, at the very beginning, that the debate about whether the doctrines are accurate or not is such a boring topic for him. And he basically starts out by saying, of course these doctrines are a bunch of false bits of information. Now let's move on. And he basically spends this entire book basically commenting on the different aspects of religion that should maybe be added to the secular world. And the examples he uses are specifically from Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism. These are probably the three religions that I have a huge love for and probably have the biggest interest in learning about. I mean, I am a Christian, or I identify as one at least, and I have a very strong background in Judaism, which Christianity came from, and Buddhism is a religion that I definitely have a strong love for. I think in the teachings of Buddha and all that, a lot of Buddhist philosophy is fascinating for me. But anyway, getting off topic again. The comments that he makes, he starts out by talking about things like, I'm just going to cheat by looking at the table of context. Things like community. Sort of religions have sort of these communities. It's how a lot of people interact. Things like, we do have internet communities, and there are fan clubs of things and people who do like this, but with religious communities, it's people who don't really have anything in common at all. And it's over the internet where we do a lot of socializing, but it's very different when we're actually in person. And it's like things like at church every Sunday there's this part where the pastor says, "Lord be with you," and then we say, or "The peace of Christ be with you," and then we say, "And also with you," and then we all shake hands or hug and say, "Oh, God be with you, peace be with you, peace." So that's something that he was commenting on, or singing together, singing hymnals and things like that. And I think also things like a lot of the churches that I know of do a lot of charity things, do things to help the poor and those in need. Some other things, he also talks about how religion regularly teaches kindness, and a lot of atheists will say, well, that should be common sense, and the author here will say, well, yes, but a lot of the times we forget. Religion reminds us to be loving and to be kind. And although there are obvious exceptions, I mean, He's aware of this, he's aware of that. Okay. Then education, the way that religions teach. Things like, when you go to school, you get lectures and teachers telling you information, giving you information. But it's, okay, now, well, we do this, and here, and this person did this, and this person did that. Now, sermons at churches. The preacher goes up and preaches, basically, this is someone, the preacher is trying to change your life with this speech, not just simply give information. And for me, the churches I go to, I definitely learn a lot. But anyway, one of the comments made here is about things like Baptist and Pentecostal churches where the preacher's doing this big preaching that when congregants agree, they'll shout, "Amen, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Amen," and they get really entranced. And part of it is he's talking, maybe college lecturers should start doing things like that. And part of it is preaching is much more theatrical than lecturing. That's kind of more of a teaching technique. Now, other things. He also comments on original sin, which is something a lot of Christians, or a lot of progressive Christians, myself included, have kind of rejected, but he comments on it as a fascinating concept. The idea that when we're born, we are in need of guidance, that we're not born perfect, that we're born imperfect. And, yes, we're born, a lot of people say, no, we're not taught hatred and bigotry. Things like hatred and bigotry are definitely pushed on us and taught to us. But things like, some things that are maybe more negative that do come naturally to us is our pride, our vanity, and our arrogance sometimes can get the best of us. And that's one of the main reasons that I ended up becoming a Christian, or that right after my conversion I basically stayed, was that it helped me basically deal with my arrogance and my problems and my flaws. Now, other things, he talks about the art, things like at churches and things. There's all this art that tells us what we should love and what we should not, what we should reject. And usually when you go to a museum, what they have everything separated and organized, not by what these paintings are supposed to teach and make us think about, but that sort of when they were painted, who made them, the style, and things. So I think it's an interesting perspective. Now, architecture. One of the comments made here is when Martin Luther and John Calvin sort of led the Protestant Reformation, they basically rejected all this beautiful art that the Catholic churches had, and the comment here is that was a bad thing, and it also, in the secular world, we don't have these great beautiful buildings. Like some of the churches I've seen aren't these glorious buildings. I luckily go to beautifully made churches, but really the really incredible, beautiful, crafted buildings that are really these major works of art that I usually tend to go past, that most people probably tend to go past, are either really, really, really old buildings or probably churches. And things like, I can't think of a building in the Twin Cities that's more beautiful than the Basilica in St. Paul. And things like we should be surrounded by this sort of artwork, this sort of his attitude, and that religion basically has us surrounded by these sort of things. Things like a lot of other religions, I mean, Buddhist temples, and they're usually surrounded by all this stuff. And psychologically, it can be a very, it can possibly help us think in a more optimistic way, is one of the, what I think he's getting at. And institutions, having sort of people give us guidance and things like that. We get together weekly on a regular basis. And he also talked about a French writer named Auguste Comte, I think that's how it's pronounced, who was a 19th century person who criticized all the religious myths and all that, but he also tried starting this new religion that was based on giving people guidance, and basically taking all these things from other religions. So I think that's an interesting way, but overall, the point of view he gives is that there's so much wisdom in religion that it shouldn't be abandoned to only the religious, to only the believers. That the wisdom of religion is for everyone, including atheists. And I'm going to comment now on, I've heard some atheists basically say, no, that's bad, we shouldn't apply all this religious stuff into the secular world. That's religion in disguise. It takes away your ability to think. There have been atheists who've said things like that. There are other atheists, however, who have said, I agree with him, but I disagree with him on how we can learn from religions. And this specific atheist who was criticizing that book basically said, I think it's the teachings of Jesus, things like that, that we can learn from. And so, yeah. Now, my personal opinion on religion for atheists and de Botton's view is that maybe he basically has so much of religion, it's basically everything but the doctrines is pretty much something he's speaking positively about, that I'm thinking, you know what? Why not just have religions drop all these enforcement of doctrine? Maybe get rid of all this emphasis on having to believe in these things, and basically have religions be welcoming to all, welcoming to those who don't believe. Basically, forget about belief and have religion emphasize orthopraxy over orthodoxy, instead of having to take all these different aspects of religion and basically completely re-secularize. And that's kind of my view. Although I think it's a great book overall, and I really enjoyed reading it. And it was especially great to see an atheist writer, after reading Robert Ingersoll and Bertrand Russell and Richard Dawkins, and seeing all these YouTube films of people like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Victor Stenger and Lawrence Krauss, all basically having this kind of black and white view that it's either religion bad, it's either believe it all or reject it, and all that. Or I thought it was great to see an atheist really thinking outside of that sort of box. I mean, there are several other atheists who do, but they're not really famous for being these atheist writers. But anyway, looks like this video is a bit longer than some of my videos have been. Thank you for watching and putting through with this all. And thank you. Shalom.